we are going to get started. I am thrilled to be here to talk about Quizizz today. How many of you have heard of Quizizz, just out of curiosity? Okay, if you have not heard of Quizizz, then you are in the right place to learn about it. And I'm excited to talk about Quizizz because I've been using Quizizz in my classroom for at least 7 years now. I remember speaking with the team whenever they were just getting started, and so my students and I have used it all these years, and I love seeing all the different changes they've been making and bringing in for teachers and for students to really enjoy learning. And so my name is Rachelle. I am a full-time Spanish teacher, STEAM teacher, consultant, and love learning. And what I love more than that is sharing what I've learned and what I do in my classroom with other educators so they can get started. So today, before I forget, if you have not been to the Quizizz booth, they are located back there. It's B2, so be sure to stop by. And today I'm going to talk to you about how you can plan in seconds and not weekends with Quizizz AI. So if you're not familiar with Quizizz, it does a lot of different things. It is a teaching platform that you can create lessons for students, short little games, checking with students, all the different things that you can use for like a quick pulse check, your assessments. You can have students do activities in class, outside of class, and it really is engaging. It does not take a lot of time to create a game, a quiz within it. And does anybody know, do you have to create from scratch? You don't. So that's the perfect thing about it. And now they have, of course, AI, and you can do a lot of things with it. And so if you have not gone into Quizizz recently, and I'm going to do a demo in a little bit, but just for some people, if you want to take pictures, because this is only a 10-minute kind of quick demo, I have a couple of the slides here with some of the features that you can see. But with the AI enhancement, I remember logging into Quizizz back in the fall when the school year started, and I went, what is all of this? And of course, curiosity, just start clicking all the things. And it was fun to explore some of the different things that you could use the AI enhancer for. For example, grammatical errors. Have you ever picked somebody else's quiz that they've created and you're playing the game, you're like, oh, that's misspelled or something. So you can use the AI enhancer to check those grammatical errors, add explanations. One of my favorites, for some reason, I always pick the topic of photosynthesis, and I found a quiz that was already available, and it was very plain, short statements, and I did the create real-world scenarios. So then it took that lesson and it said, like, imagine you walk outside in your garden and you see this, and it made it more real for students. So that's the one feature that I like, all of these different things. And here's another, if you want to take a quick picture to see. So you can see there's some big areas across the top, translating, the grammatical and spelling errors, similar questions. So if you have created your own quiz, or you find one that's already made, and you're like, oh, this is pretty great, but I want some extra quiz questions in there, click that add similar questions. My favorite is anytime you see try this, I'm like, I'm all in. So you gotta try it. And of course, we know we want to evaluate it. Are the answers correct? Is it appropriate content for our students? And then there's a bunch of other features on the bottom. And when they first had the AI features added back in the fall, they didn't have as many. So they're continuing to build it out and also listening to teachers about what do you want to see in Quizizz? It's going to make it easier for you to better provide for your students. So there's the AI enhancement. And then, how many of you know that they now have all of these features for accommodations? Has anybody logged in recently? That is awesome. Okay, so in addition to the AI, and we'll be speaking about this a little bit, actually not too long from now, we have a panel discussion coming up at 9:40, but they have accommodations within Quizizz. So there are some different features which I'm going to demo for you so you can see how that looks, but it helps you to really address individual needs of your students. It reduces the barriers that might happen because of the different tools that we're using. You want to provide the right support for your students, and sometimes that's difficult. Differentiation, personalized learning, making sure that every student gets exactly what they need does take time, but now with these features, and again, I made another slide that you can see to get quick picture to process. These are all the different things that you can do within your quiz that you create for your students. And it's called an accommodation profile. And so if you think, some of your students, maybe you don't want them to see the leaderboard because they give up. Maybe some students really don't like the sound, for example, or the font is hard to read. A lot of those things now you can change. And so we are going to, grab that picture, dive in to what does this actually look like. So when you go to Quizizz, I'm already logged in, but if you haven't created an account, very easy to create the account. I use my Gmail for everything. This is what you see. And so across the left side, you can find, like if you're exploring a certain topic, you want to see what you have created in your own library. The AI Studio, which is also across the top there, you can see the Create with Quizizz AI. So if I scroll here, you see some of the different choices, a custom prompt that you want to put in. But if I just click AI Studio, you have the choices where you can basically take content and materials that you have that are on the top, or you can use the bottom where you're starting fresh. You're like, you know what? I have this idea. I'm just going to put the prompt in because I think it's great to test out the prompts to see what these tools generate. Or how many of you have ever found a video before a class and you think, gosh, I wish I had time to create an activity? Well, all you got to do is take that URL, paste that in there, and it's going to generate something for you. Now, is it going to be perfect? It might be. But we always want to go through and check and make sure that the questions are accurate, the responses are marked correctly, and then we can always change that as well. You can create your own topic. And one other thing that I'll say too, because I love doing these things, they do have the Quizizz AI Certified Educator. So if you're thinking, you know, I'd kind of like to go through this process and learn about everything, it guides you through all of it. Because I know in this amount of time, it's like rapid fire. So what I want to show you is I've set up a couple of just basic classes, easy to do. If you create a class, you name it. So I'm going to do this again. I already have a class named AIR. I'm going to make it green. You can require students to have a parent or guardian email or not, and then your class is created. You can share that link with them. They can have the code depending on the age of your students. Also has integrations with Schoology and Google. But hypothetically speaking, we're going to pretend I already have my class set up. So I'm going to go to my library, and there's my photosynthesis quiz, because for some reason it's one of my go-tos. So let's say I already have my quiz created. I can start a live quiz right now with all of you here, if you're my students. And then you notice there's this enable accommodations. And if you're curious about what that is, and if you click the what's this, you have the pop-up on the bottom that will go through and show you what each of those accommodations are and what that does. So I'm going to leave the accommodations there. When I hit start now, I have the classes. So let's say I want to pick my STEAM students, which again, I made these students up. I had already set accommodations for them. And so if I want to edit this roster, I can change the student, I can remove the student from that group, I can change the name of the group they're in. And the really neat thing about this is when you go through your class and you mark the different accommodations for each student, it saves that so that then if you need those same accommodations for that same group of students each time, you don't have to go back in and mark them again. But if you see that students no longer need that larger font, or they don't need it to be read aloud to them, or you want them to see the leaderboard, all those things, you can change it. So now I have this student, Annie Hoffman, again, totally made up, that needs something, I need to add something for her. So as you can see, I have all of these different accommodation choices. So knowing my student, because we have different things we need to prepare for them in our classroom, I know maybe she needs 30 seconds extra time for questions. Redemption, if you give students redemption questions, I'm like, you know what, she's gonna get redemption. And then maybe I want the read aloud for her. I wanna focus on the font size for her for accessibility, so it's gonna be medium. And I'm gonna turn off the sound effects because maybe for some reason that's distracting. So I hit save changes. So I have all of my students in their groups and I hit continue. And the best thing about this, and as we wind down is before you launch it on your board, here I can see this is going to be assigned to a class, the attempts, I have my different groups, and I hit start. So before you project it on your screen, you've done all the magic, and then when the board is presented to students, they don't know that anybody else has anything different than them. They have the same quiz, They're like, they start, it ends, they don't know. They had extra time, they didn't have the music on, they hadn't read aloud, the font was bigger, unless they tell each other. But the best thing is you can provide each student with what they need in that space and give them that chance to engage in learning with just some simple clicks, and it saves you time. So if you have questions, drop by the booth, B2, or we'll see you upstairs in about 10 minutes for a great panel discussion in room 15A. So thank you. Have a great day at the conference. And thanks